for joining today's session, How to Build Street Cred, presented by Creative Services and the VOA. My name is Colleen Strauss. My co-hosts are Tyler and Josh, and we'll be handling the behind-the-scenes activities for today's sessions. We'll get started in just a moment with Tracy Woodard, President of Mad Housers. And just a few reminders before we get started. All lines are muted, your cameras are off. If you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A or chat box. And we are recording today's session. So now is my pleasure to welcome Tracy Woodard to begin our session. Again, she is the president of Mad Housers, an Atlanta-based nonprofit that builds temporary emergency shelters for homeless individuals and families. Tracy, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I have been working with homeless in Atlanta since 1999. We build very basic modular locking shelters for chronically homeless adults, and we give them away for free. We've built hundreds of them all over Atlanta. We've built them as far as New York City in the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum and the Triennale Architecture Museum in Milan, Italy. And now that I'm also a case manager with Intent Collaborative Ministries, I am able to navigate homeless adults into permanent housing and connect them to other services, whether that be medical insurance or food stamps or reuniting with their family and all of these things. And what I want to talk about is how Mad Housers uses social media to not just get out the word and build up our volunteer base, but to sort of change minds about what homelessness means in Atlanta. A lot of people get their idea about homelessness from watching TV or watching the nightly news. And, homelessness is much more complicated. A lot of people think, oh, well, you're homeless because, you're lazy or you're on drugs or you're a criminal. And it's, that's like saying a car accident only happens for one or two reasons. Homelessness, I like to say, is much like a car accident in that it can happen for a variety of reasons. Many of those reasons are preventable, and it can drastically affect your average lifespan. So what I like to do with social media is try to curate a presentation of homelessness and street outreach in such a way that is educational, it is positive, but it makes sure not to cross the line into poverty porn, which is an issue whenever you're working with street outreach. So what I'd like to do is talk about some basic examples of how I use social media to reach out to people in a positive manner, and then show some bad examples of things you should not use social media for, which sadly some people who should know better tend to do. So for example, if I have a client who has just gotten their driver's license, I'm going to post a photo. If I'm working with a family who does not have access to fresh fruit and vegetables, I might show a photo of a child holding an apple at the food pantry, and I would cut their face out for privacy purposes. Or like if a client has a dog and we are finally able to get them to the veterinary office to get the shots and the flea treatments that they need, I'll take a picture of the person with the dog because people love animals. These are all positive examples of what it is like to struggle with housing and struggle with getting the services that you need, while also just trying to get on with your life, right? And giving a human face to the troubles that these people are going through. Bad examples of using social media to show people about homelessness, and this is an actual example that a Georgia Tech professor posited to me, was he said, what if we installed streaming video cameras under a bridge at a homeless camp, sold subscriptions to it on YouTube, and then diverted those funds to a charity of his choice? And I'm like, well, that violates every kind of privacy law right there. But it's very easy for people to think, oh, well, as long as we just post photos of homeless people and we can use that to raise money. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you're taking advantage of that person's situation and their identity. So you have to do it in a very tasteful, respectful way, because these are people and this is their life, right? And some of the folks, they're only homeless temporarily. Some of them, it's just they just lost their job, or a tree hit their house, or they're fleeing domestic violence, and they're only going to be homeless for a little while. But some people have been homeless for years and years, and it is a part of their identity, and their dignity is the only thing that they have left. Right? So it is so important that while you might use a client's image in order to drum up volunteers or raise money or educate the populace, it is so important that you remain respectful to your homeless clients. right? Does anybody have any questions? Oh, what does success look like? Hold on, let me see if I can see the text of Eunice's question. Boop.
And Tracy, let me know when you want me to proceed with our slides as well.
Um, uh, you know, the slides, people can look at the slides. Basically what the slides are examples of the structures that Madhausers builds out in the field. So they're going to have nothing to do with what I'm talking about, because I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be answering questions at this point, because I know we're short on time and you have the next speaker to get to. But if you want to just go ahead and slowly go through the slides, and that way people can see the idea of the kind of population we're working with and what we build. And by the way, I will plug this in. If anybody would like to know more about Madhausers, you can go to madhausers.net, where we have the blueprints free to download, and you will also see pictures of the kind of structures that we build. Okay, so I got a few questions in Q&A. So one question, in your experience on the streets, what is the most valuable relationships you've developed? So it's twofold. You have to develop relationships with the clients. That means going into the field over and over again and building trust. You're going, and these are not great parts of town. You're going into abandoned buildings, under bridges. You are going on what I like to call the off-road geography of Atlanta, because this is where a lot of these people, this is where they can exist, you know, but you have to go there again and again to show that you're trustworthy, to, you know, and it could just be me offering food, or maybe, you know, bottled water, a blanket, and just coming back again and again to show consistency. The other form of relationship is with other partner agencies, because like I can do temporary shelter. There's a whole lot of stuff that I don't know how to enroll somebody in veteran benefits. I'm not a doctor. You know, I mean, we have some stuff here in my job. We have like some clothes and some food, but there's so many specialized services that I don't have access to, that you have to build relationships with legal services, medical services, veteran services, so that you can say, well, I can do X, Y, and Z. Now you need to talk to Joe in this office and form the relationship there. And they will come to me, of course, on some days and say, hey, I need your thing, you know. So let's see, how did you establish these connections outside of all, and do you plan to scale out and up? So, you know, I have high hopes of doing the same model in other cities. Atlanta, it is in a unique position in that we can build Madhauser shelters in a lot of Atlanta because we have a great deal of undeveloped green space. We just have a lot of woods where people can stay in a tent and they're behind the tree line and no one will bother them. And maybe the police know they're there, or the neighbors know they're there, but they will say, oh yeah, that's Joe. He washes dishes at Waffle House and then gets drunk and falls asleep in the woods, and we don't care. That is obviously very unique to Atlanta. You could probably do that in Houston, but that is one of those bespoke models that I would like to carry to other cities to see if it's possible. And a lot of that has to do with what the neighborhoods, how the neighborhoods feel. Because again, a lot of neighborhoods in Atlanta are okay with us building a Madhauser shelter in the woods because it's hidden. The moment it becomes visible, you have a different conversation, because neighborhoods, frankly, are not very comfortable with having homeless neighbors. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I'm always on social media, to try and change people's minds, because a lot of people, they have this knee-jerk reaction to what a homeless person brings to their neighborhood, and they automatically think it's like, oh, it's going to bring crime and drugs and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you don't know that, you know, until you have gone and met this person and formed a relationship with them. They are an unknown, right? And that's something I try to drum into people a lot. Let's see, the next question. Tell us about your experience as a professional musician. So I have a master's degree in music from University of Georgia, and I'm still a working musician. One of the things that I've taken from working and running arts organizations that I've brought into the nonprofit world is, and again with social media, update your content every day. Keep it simple, keep it consistent. But, you know, oftentimes I have found that while people may not like the music that I'm playing or the work that I'm doing on the streets, they think that I'm funny. And so they will follow me and they will want to learn more. And so building your audience often depends more on your personality and the funny, positive content that you're providing on a daily basis than the actual service that you're providing. That is what I found in my practical experience. Let's see, next one. What does success look like to you? So for me, success in a client, there's gradations. If a client has increased their income, that's a success. They've gotten their ID, they've gotten a job, they've gone back to school, they've maintained their housing, they have started using fewer drugs or started drinking less alcohol. These are all forms of success that add up over time. You have to be patient because some people have been homeless or dealing with substance abuse or mental health for decades. And, it takes time to turn the ship in the other direction. So that is how I measured success, is basically the joy of a slowly rising number. Let's see, any other questions? I know we're running short on time.
Yes, we actually have 2 minutes. So I think that you have a lot of questions actually. I think everyone's really interested. How can we volunteer? How do you fight community pushback? Are the houses heated? Those types of questions. But we are running out of time, so I do want to go ahead and wrap things up right now. So thank you guys so much for your time and for walking us through all this important work that you have done, Tracy. It's really important, and I know that group is really interested in it. But we do need to go ahead and conclude the presentation. For the participants, please remember to check out the digital swag downloads if you haven't already. We now will have a 25-minute lunch break. For those attending the networking session, please join now. It starts at 11. And for everyone else, we can see you at the next sessions that start 11:25. On the road again with Corey Lee and What's Your Career GPS with Ralph Johnson. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.